partnership between Friday Forum at the University YMCA and Conversation Café with diversity and social justice education here at the university. We are so excited to be able to continue this partnership again, and we're really grateful to diversity and social justice education, particularly my colleague Jacob Longacre, who is their director here. Thank you so much. This has become a really good example of what it means to work together as opposed to kind of competing with each other in great programming. So we're really glad to be working together. Thank you all for being here. Both those of you who are here in person and folks who are here on Zoom. One change from last year is we are continuing to do a Zoom option. We're very grateful to Urbana Public Television and also WEFT Radio for continuing to broadcast what's happening here as well. But a change is we are not trying to do hybrid this season. We found we were not very good at it. So we are pleased to have you here both in person and on Zoom. This is also a partnership with the Y-Tie Eatery, and I did just want to note that today. There's a new proprietor for the Y-Tie. The Y-Tie has been here for a long time. It's a favorite eatery on campus. We hope this is kind of a nice promotion for them. Their food is excellent. If you come for a taste today, you kind of get a sense of what that is. They are offering extended hours now. They're open 10:30 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. And they're getting busier and busier. So please think about coming back and patronizing the Y-Tie. And we're really grateful for their partnership as well. I'm Ann Rasmus, I'm Associate Director here at the University Y. Friday Forum is one of the cool things that I get to do here for my work at the Y, where we are all about the combination of student engagement and community connection. Friday Forum is one of the places, the Friday Forum Conversation Café is one of the places where that happens most clearly each week here at the Y. And it really is almost every Friday there's a talk here at the Y. In front of you, you will find a postcard hot off the press with the series for the fall. Please, you're welcome to take that with you. It's also available electronically, and if you sign in, you will get our weekly announcements for the upcoming sessions. Today, as folks know, because you're here for this today, I'm sure we're going to hear from Gloria Yen, which is who's the director of the New American Welcome Center here at the University of YMCA. We're so pleased to have Gloria kick us off and talk about the super important community work that we do here through the New American Welcome Center. And then also on the screen, I think it's been up and it's gone now, just to note for next week, we will have Kofi Basil-Smith, also a great local artist, now with a lot of really interesting international connections, and showing in the Murphy Gallery next door. So please come back next week to hear Kofi. I think that's all I have to say. If you have questions as you're here, please grab any of us who are standing around as staff. We're happy to be helpful in any way that we can. And a special thank you to Ricardo Diaz, who is here today to introduce Gloria. Ricardo is a longtime friend of the University of YMCA, a member of our Board of Governors, and an advisor for the New American Welcome Center as well. Thank you, Ricardo, for being here.
Good day, everyone. Like many of you, it's my first time back at the Friday Forum in person, and it feels good, isn't it? This forum is always for important social justice issues, and the immigrant contribution is certainly under that category. I'm grateful for you to be here, but I'm also pleased to introduce the topic. And I was called to introduce Gloria, and I said, well, if you really want to know about Gloria, look at the front page of the News Gazette this week. There's a whole spread on her for her many contributions. But the one that I want to focus on today is the fact that the welcoming plan exists. The last 5 years has been a buildup of demographic report, and then consulting the community of what the needs are, then drafting, analyzing that, focus groups and all that she might tell you about. But we have had over 1,500 people probably dealing already with the issues that are coming up. I can tell you from personal observation, it would not have happened had Gloria not put together the details and then the resources to be able able to come to a launch a year ago this week at the Hotel. So we are in the process of rollout of the plan. Gloria has managed to be pulling together that to get the print, to get the event, to get those things going. And then, as she will mention later, but I have to credit her for it, to get to the level of establishing communities of practice. That is, the 5 sectors that we divided the whole thing into have needed leaders of each. So right now we have probably about 50 people in the community that are highly engaged on a section of the plan to make it a reality. And so that could have happened again without Gloria. So thank you. Lastly, let me make a pitch for that part which is the undergird of this. I realized yesterday, as I was thinking of today, we normally quote over 25,000 foreign-born in the county. It's already sizable. But yesterday it occurred to me in talking to a person here, each one of us immigrants, I'm past childbearing age, but most immigrants come here during those prime years. It occurred to me that he has 2, I have 6. In our house, whenever there's a foreign-born parent, the kids are very much foreign-born in part of their mentality. Right, Gloria? You just, the scarcity, the be thankful for what you have in the U.S. and not in your country, and all those things get driven into you as kids. So even if you were to say, see, I see other heads nodding. So even if you were to say 1 kid per foreign-born immigrant, very conservative. That means there's 50,000 foreign-born thinking people in this county. Shoot, we just doubled from a 5th to a 3rd of the population of our county. So this is significant. It impacts us every day, and as Gloria speaks in details, this is something to take home to your organizations and to say, oh, I need to let them know, whether it's in church or your class or whatever administrative role you play around here or faculty, this is what you need to put and figure out together, because that's how the plan rolls. It's together. So, Gloria, did I say? Because you don't like to have the limelight, but I try to play off that to say, Gloria does it, and she'll do it better. So.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ricardo, for that nice introduction, and I hope that part of the spirit of what I communicate today is that, the work that we do in pursuing justice really requires partnership across different organizations, across different groups, across different generations, and from almost the time I first arrived back in Champaign, Urbana in 2017, Ricardo has been a friend and a partner, a co-conspirator, and a mentor, so thank you very much. All right, so moving on. I am double mic'd, triple mic'd, so I'll turn off the 3rd. Hopefully that helps. So I would be remiss if I didn't begin today by welcoming you to not only Friday Forum and Conversation Cafe, but one of 39 events happening during Welcoming Week, Champaign County. And so we have had, since the 9th of September, a lot of really, really fun bridge building events across the community, from getting to experience virtual experiences and tours from the Cranor Art Museum with loved ones from abroad, to getting to tour Solo Gratia Farm out in Urbana last night, to launching with our international dinner last Friday. So these are just some of the pictures of some of the fun events that have already happened. We're still in the thick of things. If you haven't had a chance to go to an event yet, you totally have an opportunity to do so today, tomorrow, and Sunday. If you're looking for good food in addition to maybe attending some events, you can also check out the coupon book that is, or should be, at each of your chairs. There are 40 deals and discounts to local immigrant-owned businesses, and it's a fantastic way to continue elevating the visibility of all the wonderful things that immigrants do and contribute to our community. So about the University YMCA, I know that many of you have come into these doors before, but maybe for some of you this is your first time, and so I'm just going to take some space to tell you about this almost 150-year-old organization that pursues social and environmental justice, global engagement, and interfaith collaboration. The work that the Y does really creates spaces for people to really find their why as students and as community members. In the 1930s, we were the first nonprofit to allow both Black and white members. In the 1960s, our students led a boycott of local barbershops who refused to cut the hair of African American students. By the 1970s, we were the focus of a lot of local environmental activism. We passed or helped pass some recycling laws and shut down medical waste incinerators in low-income neighborhoods. The Y has been really active for many, many years, many, many decades in convening responses to the issues of our time. One of those issues, of course, is what brings us together today, and it's in building a more welcoming community, particularly one that is inclusive of the opportunities desired and the needs required by our foreign-born community. So the Y's work in building international understanding actually extends back over 100 years. Around the time of World War I, there were some initiatives to really try to bring people together and have conversations to promote understanding across some of the tensions of the time. In the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of international potlucks and dinners bringing together people over shared meals and learning to share about cultures, arts, different types of practices. If you fast forward several decades, kind of the most recent bout of local organizing around immigrant justice in the community was really around the 2010s. The Immigration Forum, Latino Partnership of Champaign County, the Immigration Projects, several other entities kind of came together in response to some really challenging policies and practices that were happening both federally and also locally in our community. Some examples of how we played a role in partnering and convening was successfully mobilizing community opposition to secure communities, and the end result of that was that our local sheriff's office no longer participates in connecting people to federal ICE agents. Another example was launching DACA workshops shortly after that became an opportunity for young Americans to be able to pursue deferred action. We held workshops and trainings for volunteers here upstairs. We also organized a march from the Refugee Center to Representative Ronnie Davis's office in 2013 to really promote and push the importance of lighting a pathway to citizenship. As you, I'm sure, can well recall, in recent years, the onslaught of really harmful policies and practices has not stopped, right? And so these are just some photos of local actions that happened in the past several years. There were a lot of policies and practices under the previous administration to create an atmosphere of division and distrust, to violently dehumanize migrants, to threaten the futures of young Americans, and to scare people from accessing social and health safety net benefits. Even just in the past couple of days, the past couple of weeks, we've seen the movement of people, primarily from Venezuela, who have been in Texas, that are being moved like pawns and sent in buses off to a lot of different communities, including Chicago, which is expecting over 1,000 people a week for the next 15 weeks. And so the importance of convening and organizing responses for justice, for the dignity of the foreign-born individuals that we are neighbors with, that we are ourselves, is really, really critical even today. It was in the context of a lot of these policies and executive orders that YMCA of the USA decided to launch a pilot program, the New American Welcome Center. It was a cohort that ultimately created and established 17 New American Welcome Centers nationwide. They started with places that have had a long history of welcoming immigrants, like San Francisco and also New York City, and then they expanded to places like Champaign, Urbana, which has, like Ricardo was saying, a population of over 25,000 immigrants, but our wave of migration hasn't been as established. The work of the New American Welcome Center here in Champaign-Urbana really is to bring together partners, mobilize institutions and resources to ensure equitable access, economic opportunity, and meaningful belonging for immigrants in Champaign County. One of the things that we like to do on the New American Welcome Center team is every so often come up with knock-related puns or knock-knock jokes, and so if you're around afterward, I'm always collecting some more. But this is a picture of our knockout team, and you're not gonna believe what we do. So currently our programs include a multilingual helpline, immigration legal services, outreach and education, and also community bridge building events. As you can maybe see behind the masks from this picture that was taken at the end of the spring semester, our team is a blend of US-born residents along with first and second generation immigrants from China, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Taiwan, and also Mexico. Nearly half of our staff actually began their journey with us as volunteers, as AmeriCorps Vistas, as interns, as community navigators, and we currently have 2 DOJ accredited representatives, which means community-based organization staff who are able to provide immigration legal services, and also a licensed social worker on our staff. And the work that we do allows us to respond directly to the lived experience that we on staff mirror for people who are from the local Spanish-speaking, Lingala, Taiwanese, Mandarin Chinese, and Spanish, and maybe I'm repeating some things, but lots of languages on the team. So on top of our staff, we also have a wonderful crew of interns from the U of I. Some alum are in here today that I see, who invest about 90 hours a week. The work we do on a daily basis focuses on immigrants in Champaign County. So we have over 25,000, if you think of it in simple terms, immigrants in Champaign County, which is about 1 in 8 residents. According to data from the Census Bureau, over 50% of foreign-born residents in Champaign County actually arrived in our community after 2010. And so our community has undergone and is undergoing a lot of really significant shifts that create a lot of wonderful opportunities for community members and institutions to respond. The focus of the work that we do is primarily off campus. Folks are usually really interested in hearing, so how many of this 25,000 number are students, for example, or affiliated with the university? It's about 40%. So the 60% that are working in the community, raising their families, and pursuing different sorts of opportunities are the ones that we primarily focus on. Listed on the slide are the top 10 sending communities that we have according to the most recent census data. This probably reflects some of what you see in our community, not only in the places that you're going, but also in the types of businesses and who is operating the businesses that you see. Of course, immigrants enrich our cultural, social, and civic fabric in a lot of different ways. They also have some really significant economic contributions that deserve a call out. So immigrants actually represent 14.4% of our working age population, 12.3% of the employed labor force, and 25.5% of STEM workers in Champaign County. Although their economic contributions are many, there are often also ongoing challenges that immigrants in our community face, regardless of how long they have been in the community. These 2 polls are from a survey that we conducted in 2018, just trying to learn and better understand, both from the local US-born community and foreign-born community, about some of the initial challenges that they face when moving into our community, and also some of the ongoing needs and supports that they would like. We had over 800 respondents from the US-born and foreign-born community, and you can see here that there is a lot of kind of shared challenges around being lonely, maybe, at least feeling like you're starting a new life in a new community, not having initially family and friends, and also some shared challenges around finding employment. But you'll also see from the darker bars that the challenges of learning English and finding employment are, of course, significantly higher for the immigrant community. And that on an ongoing basis, employment opportunities, educational opportunities, and healthcare are significant areas where we can be investing energy and mobilization. This is a diagram that I really love. I don't know who to attribute it to exactly, but I think it comes from someone at Welcome America. I think it's one of the sketches that they made in their bullet journal that I took a picture of during a webinar. But what does pursuing justice in the community look like? And I think this does a really good job of capturing some of that. I'll read it because it's a little bit hard to see. We do stuff together because we want to make a difference. In the next box, it says, I love being with others who recognize the difference I want to make and who appreciate my uncertainty. I get ideas, tools, friendships, and take them back and put them to use and see the effect, taking this back to others who want to make a difference. So it's an ongoing process, it's an iterative process. It's a process that includes excitement and fun, connection and relationship. It's also a process that includes risk and uncertainty. And you'll see from here, like, they don't necessarily know what they're doing. I was recently introduced to the social change ecosystem map, and I wanted to share it with you today because I think sometimes it can be difficult to figure out when we want to make a difference in the arena of social justice, where exactly do we fit in, and what are some of the roles that we can play. So this is a tool that was created by Deepa Iyer from the Building Movement Project, and in it she illustrates some of the values at the center that bring people together, that motivate people. And around it, the spokes are the different kinds of roles that people in the community can hold. So some of you may be disruptors. You're totally okay with taking uncomfortable and risky actions to shake up the status quo, to raise awareness, and to build power. Some of you listening to that description probably were like, ugh, what other types of social change opportunities are there? Others of you may be frontline responders. You address community crises by marshaling and organizing resources, networks, and messages. Others are healers, you're nurturers. You recognize and you tend to generational traumas caused by oppressive systems, institutions, policies, and practices. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but they're on Insta, so you can check it out for some more resources that you can actually bring in, use to guide internal discussions in your classrooms or organizations. I think that this is a really helpful tool because it helps us to identify our values and cause in the middle circle, to map not only the roles that we ourselves hold, but also our peers around us hold, and also to reflect, to observe, and to plan for change. The work that we do, I think that, if I was to place myself in here, I am a builder and I am a frontline responder. And I am someone who, when I was in school, I would have to write my entire paper to figure out what my thesis was. And so giving kind of overarching presentations like this is really challenging for me in terms of trying to figure out, how do we distill the work that we're doing and the processes that we were following while we were doing it. And so I was thinking through some of the different initiatives and projects that we did and trying to kind of map them out a little bit. And I think that they all have several things in common. We took the time to understand community need by listening, identifying, researching, and understanding. We also identified key individuals and entities, whether they're staff, interns, volunteers, community partners with different skill sets to facilitate whatever work was in front of us. We also made a plan to define roles and responsibilities and the intended outcomes that we wanted to pursue. We worked to secure resources that would enable us to enact the work with appropriate capacity, and we also just did the thing. So the examples that I was thinking of don't always happen in this order. There are probably more elements. Not every element is always present in the different things that you're doing, but I think these are some of the common things that I was able to distill. And I want to emphasize that all of these things always happen in community. Some specific examples of how this work has looked like at the New American Welcome Center in recent years has been the way that we've addressed the demand for legal services. So in 2017 and 2018, over half of the calls that we were receiving on our multilingual helpline were for requests for legal services. In convening conversations with community stakeholders from the U of I, from the schools, from other nonprofit organizations, we kept hearing that we really need more legal representation to serve the demands of the immigrant community. And so what we were able to do was to bring people together, convene a cohort of volunteers and staff members, train and equip them, and give them shadowing opportunities at local nonprofits and at local private attorney practitioners to equip them to practice immigration law. And so we actually currently have 2 immigration law practitioners on our staff, and that's an example of one of the ways that we responded to this need. Another recent example was with the 2020 census. We knew that data shows that every person who is counted in the census brings about $1,400 to their community a year. We also knew that the state of Illinois was at risk of losing up to 2 seats in Congress. And we also knew that immigrants have been historically undercounted decennial after decennial, ACS after ACS, right? And so we really wanted to make sure that we were getting and capturing accurate representation of the immigrant community so that the resources that were being mobilized in our community from 2011 to 2020, from 2021 to 2030 really serve the needs of who is actually here. And like I was saying, over 50% of our foreign-born community entered our community after 2010. And so it was really critical that we were able to capture some of those things. Of course, the work, I keep saying this, but of course the work we do is not in isolation. There are a lot of other agencies that we regularly work very closely with. The first row is other immigration advocacy and service providers in the community. The bottom row are members of what we call a community alliance. We are a designated Illinois welcoming center, and so on a monthly basis we have the opportunity to convene different members of the community together to talk about different issues and figure out how to respond. One of the reasons that I think that the work that we've done has been successful is that we have been fortunate to secure the necessary resources for mobilization. You can have ideas, you can see needs, you can have a plan, you can want to mobilize, but if you don't have people in place, if you don't have resources to build, you can't really go anywhere. And so this is just an acknowledgement of the different entities that have helped and supported our work along the way. We do a lot of convening of multi-sector partners, as I've mentioned. So even at the initial stages of the Welcome Center, we brought together people from the public and private sector, faith leaders, business leaders, immigrant leaders who weren't already represented in those spaces, because we really wanted to make sure that we had a good pulse on what was necessary to move forward. And one of the things that our advisory board, some members who are pictured here, tasked us with was in collecting more input from the community. And so we actually launched into a 2-year-long community engagement process in which we conducted qualitative and quantitative surveys of individuals, of organizations, of local employers, and we also convened listening sessions that were language specific to really understand what are the challenges when you interact with transportation, with the medical system, with employment, with language, etc. And this is just kind of, the following slides are just a short summary of some of the findings that we had, or at least some of the respondents that we had. So the slide that you just saw was our community survey. We also surveyed about 60 organizations to understand how they were currently engaging immigrant constituents and potentially their desire to engage immigrant constituencies in the future. We also conducted a surveys of employers. Like I mentioned earlier, Our workforce, about 14.3% of our workforce is made up of foreign-born individuals, so we really wanted to make sure that not only immigrant individuals were supported in the economic opportunities that they wanted to pursue and obtain, but also that employers could identify where were the places that they needed tools and resources to recruit, to hire, to onboard, and retain. All of these things facilitated our direction towards creating a responsive framework for welcoming, and so like Ricardo mentioned, we were able to release a welcoming plan for Champaign County in September of 2021. What the welcoming plan does is it outlines strategies and recommendations in 5 key areas that the community at large, with stakeholders from the cities, from the county, from school districts, libraries, etc., have come together and decided to say yes to holding ourselves accountable to commitments to the immigrant community over the course of the next 5 years. So in the area of citizenship and civic engagement, we decided to commit to centering immigrants as change makers in our community by strengthening pathways to citizenship and civic engagement regardless of immigration status. In the area of economic integration and employment, we committed to cultivating the integration of immigrant workers and entrepreneurs into our local economy through inclusive and equitable workplaces. In language and education, we committed to promoting language acquisition and increasing educational opportunities. In health and well-being, we committed to prioritizing supports for the dynamic range of physical, social, and mental health needs of immigrant communities. And in the arena of public safety, we committed to building trust and relationships among immigrant communities, local law enforcement, and public safety entities. So on each of the slides, I just had like the top line recommendations, but each of these recommendations are actually followed by really concrete, actionable, short-term and long-term strategies for us to be pursuing together in community over the next 1 to 3 years and 3 to 5 years. Some of the next steps that we have been taking to date has included expanding our network of partners and who is involved. Everyone needs to have a stake. We've also been forming communities of practice that are co-led by a US-born and foreign-born individual in each area that brings together influencers, leaders, and also mobilizers in each of these areas who can take the plan and the strategies and put them into action. We've been working on securing funding, and the city of Champaign was actually recently designated as one of 3 communities nationwide to participate in a certified welcoming pilot, which is going to allow us to take the welcoming plan, go through an audit of our programs and policies in the city of Champaign, and try to achieve a national standard of certified welcoming. There have been, I think, less than 20 communities nationwide to date who have been certified, so we're really excited that the city of Champaign is leading us in these efforts. Also, shout out to Mary Catherine, 40 Under 40 Woman of the Year, right there. I wanted to give also a quick shout out to our current leadership team for the implementation of the welcoming plan. You'll see people here from the sheriff's office, from local municipalities, from the university, from the cities, from the Economic Development Corporation, and also local immigrant leadership. And all of them have taken a joint stake in ensuring that the communities of practice that we have are being facilitated and driven and by leadership that bridges foreign-born and US-born communities together and really continues to center and elevate immigrant voices as we move our work forward. In terms of how do, one of the things that I think people are always curious about is figuring out like what bucket to put the New American Welcome Center in. Are you a direct service provider, or are you kind of like a community mobilizer? Where do you fit? And I think we kind of straddle a space that goes between the two. So our programs are listed on the left. Each of them were created in response to community need. We have invested in the cultivation of resources, personnel, and partnerships to facilitate equitable access, economic opportunity, and meaningful belonging. The programs that we have in partnership with others in the community make a direct and immediate impact. They offer time-sensitive assistance, and they build a strong foundation for the broader framework that we're moving toward as a community at large for responsive policies, programs, and practices. And so each of these kind of feed each other, and together our approach enables us not only to address immediate needs, but it also allows us to lock arms with each of you in this room to take critical action for a more just and equitable future. So in terms of how do you fit in, I have some reflection questions and also some action items. So in thinking about what your role can be, whether it's in the immigrant justice arena or just in social justice at large, you can think about what is your role in the social justice ecosystem, in the social change ecosystem. You can think about how you can be advancing belonging in your classroom, in your RSO, your organization, and your workplace. And you can also be thinking of, do you have community in which you can pursue your interest in social justice? And if that's not the case, I don't know how to get rid of that. Where could you start? I think that the work of social justice can be really challenging, right? And it can be really hard, it can be really isolating, it can feel lonely at times, and people burn out all the time. And so I think it's really, really important that you have people around you, community around you with the different gifts that we saw in the social change ecosystem who are able to propel you forward, to encourage you, and to continue taking those steps forward. Some actions, the X, that makes sense. Thank you. Some of the actions that you can take that I mentioned earlier is you can attend a Welcoming Week event. You can support an immigrant-owned restaurant. If you enjoyed the food from YTI that you had today, there's actually a coupon for that in your book. Whoa. So you can take that out and head over there after this and get seconds. You can also donate to the Immigrant Relief Fund. This was one of the ways that we mobilized during the pandemic and provided over $400,000 in direct financial assistance to address food and economic and housing insecurity for the community. And it's also a way that we were able to support some local immigrant-owned businesses for whom not we really, but Hui Ching, our grants finance manager, was able to secure over $550,000 in dollars to help local businesses keep their doors open. And of course, I have to plug that there are always opportunities to join the team. You can join our staff as a caseworker. We're also looking for a welcoming plan coordinator. So if some of the stuff with welcoming plan implementation sounds interesting to you, we have partnered with the city of Champaign to hire a coordinator for that. And there are also always opportunities to volunteer. We have interns from urban planning, from political science, Latina studies, social work, a wide range of places, communication, who are trying to figure out how to take their field of training and use it to make change in the community. And so that could be a great opportunity for you. We also have Vista AmeriCorps opportunities and also opportunities to lead as a community navigator. So that is all. Oh, I'm supposed to run the mic to you.
Oh.
Or no, I'm supposed to repeat back.
Oh, okay.
Gloria, let me shut down your thing too. So
Okay.
It's not up.
I wanted to ask about navigating the complexity of language and reality of immigrants vis-a-vis refugees, because it's arguable now that there are even more that fit in the refugee category than ever because of the disruption of the world economy.
Mm-hmm.
And there always have been climate refugees. Well, they're more apparent now. And the foreign policy refugee situation is just, staggering. It makes people uncomfortable, but I think it's important to navigate that. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to recognize that people come here for economic opportunity, for education, but also to escape persecution, to escape environmental disaster. We have, for example, recently in the past several months, the Refugee Center has welcomed, I believe, around 60 individuals to the community from Afghanistan who have been escaping conditions and been resettled here, helping them find employment, helping them get stabilized in their new homes. We also, like I was mentioning earlier, expect that we will need to do some mobilization to welcome folks who are traveling up from Venezuela by way of Texas to Chicago and potentially eventually down to Champaign County. And so we really want to make sure that we are leveraging our existing networks to make sure that we are responding to some of those needs. Does that answer? Okay. Any questions? Ken?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. I wanted to just give a shout out more kind of for forthcoming attractions. I'm very blessed to be working with the North on a project on nationalization, which echoes the point that Paul raised about not all refugees are getting treated the same in this country, right? There's a racialized aspect to it. But having said that, I think this work now is increasingly very important and critical. And I'm glad that you invited students, and I'm so pleased to see several of my beloved students here. Everyone just show a hand. Okay, shout out for them. All right. But in the spring, part of the project I'm working with Gloria is to map and make the stories so far so concealed more visible. And I have two of our collaborators, co-conspirators here, Lisa Faye, who's hiding back there, theater director. She's going to have a public theater performance with that will act and perform these stories to further the public dialogue. Other collaborator, Nasreen Nawab, is over here. So please look forward. She's going to have a public art dialogue in the spring with the help of the lovely Anne Rasmus there, and of course this gorgeous YMCA. So anyway, that's just forthcoming attractions, and yeah, thank you so much for what you do. I'm very blessed, and I can't think of anything other more important thing to do with my time right now. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, what Ken's referring to is we recently received funding through the Chancellor's Office to pursue and create anti-racism study circles and dialogues. And so we have actually convened a cohort of staff members at the New American Welcome Center to be really getting into conversations about the history of race in the United States, reflecting on their own stories or their family stories of migration and of immigration, and understanding how that fits in the context of immigration policy at large. And what we're really hoping to do with that is to think about how can we bring this back into the community in ways that people can engage when they are focused on, bringing food to the table, working 2 jobs, etc. But the impact of racist institutions impacts everyone to the very, very level of just like how they're able to get their food and how they're able to pay for their food. And so we really want to be encouraging conversations in the community, and we're hoping that this dialogue series that Ken and Faranack are leading us through is going to help facilitate that. There's no further questions. I'll wrap us up and hand it back to Anne. Or just wrap up. All right. Thank you so much.